What's up, y'all? Danny from Van Life Northwest coming to you today with this, as always, very special, but this one I'd consider extra special van that we have just completed and is now up for sale. This is a 96 Toyota Hiace KZH 126 Grand Cabin. So the KZH 126, that's the longest wheelbase and tallest stock height roof available for the 4th generation Hiace. It being a KZH model means it has the 1KZ TE turbo diesel engine. That's an inline 3-liter. And it being a 126 means it is a full-time 4-wheel drive model. And this one happens to be a 5-speed manual transmission. So these Grand Cabin models have is a 10-seater essentially. And they're very rare to find in this condition. I think one reason is that not a lot of them were made. The second reason is that them being a 10-seater, they were often used, in a commercial setting as a bus, as a shuttle of some kind, and incur harder wear. Being 4-wheel drive, they could be used as shuttles up to ski resorts or ski lodges in Japan, where they salt the roads to mitigate the snow on the roads, but that can cause corrosion on the frame. This has none of that, none of those issues. And it clocks some pretty remarkably low miles, 64,000 kilometers, which is about 40,000 miles. It really, for one of these, does not get any cleaner. We can just get a little detail on the jams. Jams can really be telling on the general overall condition of a vehicle. Here's the cab. There's that 5-speed stick. It has the original, well, it's not OEM. This was some aftermarket stereo installed in Japan. We can add a Sony double din stereo for the buyer, should they want that, and a backup cam. Cruising back here. 2 up front, so then we got 2 more. 4, 6, 7, 8. That one's fun. 9, 10, 11. Did I miscount? 1, 2, 3 in the back. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, yes, 10-seater. That's what I thought. Now, the Grand Cabin model, unlike some of the cargo versions of this size van, the Grand Cabin will have a rear AC here in the bulkhead and a separate rear heater here, so your passengers in the back have their own climate control. The heater on the Grand Cabin is underneath that seat right there. Come in here and get a little bit more door jam action. This is unique to the commuter or to the Grand Cabin model. They will modify this step to put in the diamond plate recessed underneath the existing stock step. Now, we've done a ton of work to this van, which is consistent with all the vans that we sell. Pop open the engine compartment, we can have a peek. There it is, there's that 1KZ TE turbo diesel engine. Now I'm sure I'll miss some of these things just off the cuff here as far as what we've done to it mechanically, but it'll all be in the listing. But starting from the front back, so rad hose, there's another rad hose down there, new. There's actually not on this one, I was going to say there's more rad hoses, but actually on the manual transmission, only one radiator. Fan clutch here, new. That's our tuned fan clutch. Behind that is the water pump, also new. In front of that is here the AC belt, and then the matched OEM alternator belts that turn the water pump, all new. Behind here is the camshaft seal. Down there, behind that, down there is the crankshaft seal, also new. All these components I'm citing are new. Under here is the timing belt. This is the timing cover. So timing belt's new. There's a tensioner pulley and tensioner, also new, OEM parts there. In order to torque the cam gear, because you have to remove the cam gear here to replace the cam seal. In order to re-torque it, you have to be able to grab the cam. In order to grab the cam, you have to remove the valve cover. In order to remove the valve cover, you have to remove the intake crossover. So in removing all of this, we go ahead and replace, all the plenum gaskets in here, the valve cover gasket, all replaced. There's oil breather hoses down in here that have to be replaced as well, and a number of vacuum hoses as well. And this little filter here. That's your engine oil filter. Obviously, we replace that, as well as your fuel filter, which is right in here. Also new, this is the housing. The fuel filter is right underneath there. Also new, rad cap, thermostat, all the rubber fuel hoses that go from the injection pump here up through the fuel filter and back to the tank. All the rubber hoses on that have been replaced. Coolant flush, this is your coolant overflow reservoir here. EGR delete. EGT gauge, that measures the exhaust gas temperature. There it is. We also added this gauge, which is the engine watchdog, engine temperature alarm. So that monitors your coolant temp, which is your standard temperature on your dash, but this gives you a numeric readout and an alarm you can set at a certain threshold, which we do. Just a little added bit of insurance. And that upper one there monitors the exhaust gas temperature, as mentioned before. So I'll go ahead and close this up. Oh, sorry, I knew I would forget something. Here's one other thing I forgot. Motor mounts, right? Motor mount, left motor mount, and the mount above the transmission, all replaced and new. That's standard for what we do. Coming out, new BFG KO2 tires. These are 235/75/15 all-terrain tires, super quiet on the highway, low rolling resistance, but great off-road. New, so steering alignment done. Turned the rotors, which means resurfaced the discs, the brake discs, and replaced the pads on this. And new shocks, front and rear, new rear springs, which means it has now been lifted with our 2-inch lift. This rebuilt alternator, that's another thing I had forgot while I was in the engine compartment. We do that for every van that we sell. Why do we do that? Well, the alternator, we've been doing this for a long time. So as we've grown as a shop, we have increasingly added more overhaul work to the list of work that we do for the vans that we sell, as we discover problems that come up commonly. One of them is alternators are difficult to predict when they're going to go out. So we would get a van in, we would test the alternator and make sure that it was functioning, albeit not new at the time. They were functioning, but then would go out within a matter of hundreds or a few thousand miles. That's not good for us, that's not good for our customers, so we added that to the docket of things that we do for every van we sell, new alternator. Also, we found that over time, that the engine computers on these can have issues with the electrolytic capacitors. Those capacitors on the computer circuit board have a lifespan. And when they go out, what happens is it can cause a fault in the engine computer, which will inhibit the engine from running. Sometimes it will be intermittent, sometimes it will completely go out. Since we started replacing those electrolytic capacitors, which is commonly called replacing the caps or recapping, we've had 0 of those recapped ECUs fail since we started doing that. So that's something we do standard for every Hiace that we sell. This also had the gear oils replaced, front diff, rear diff, center diff, and the transmission all replaced. On a Hiace, your spare tire lives right under here. Now, the one thing about living under here is that it's recessed into the fuel tank. Right here, that's the fuel tank. So you cannot fit a large tire under there. So we keep the smaller tire, which is stock for the van. It's fine to use as a spare in a pinch. I've done it. Gunshot. Surprise. So I've done it. And it'll for the full-time 4-wheel drive van, it's fine. Alternatively,